They're not supposed to be supporting Christianity, Islam, atheism, Judaism, Hinduism, none of it. And so because of that, if you want to argue against the woke thing on LGBT rights, the only ground you have is to say, I have my right to my religious beliefs with my family and my kids to say this is wrong.
Yeah, no you fucking don't. Fuck you. Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an untitled anarchist seagull called Elise. And, well, this time I'm going to be doing a bit of a respite stream. Because, I don't know, I imagine if you're like me, Chad, you've been doing, your feed has been all U.S.-Israeli atrocities in Gaza all the time. And now, it is important to be bearing witness. It is important to be making sure as many people as possible know about it and to be organizing to stop it. It is also important to protect our own mental health. I saw somebody retweeted somebody into my feed sometime over the past 24 hours saying that it was our duty to be traumatized. And I think that's a misunderstanding of our duty. Because the thing about trauma is it's a wound. It doesn't in itself help anything. If our duty is anything, our duty is to make sure that the lies that are justifying this genocide are exposed, and do what we can to help the Palestinians survive it, and to put pressure on the US and Israel and the other ghoulish regimes that are backing this to withdraw their support and put an end to it. But we also absolutely... Oh, shut up, Nightbot. Sorry about that. Hello, River Rune. But the thing is, burning out also helps nobody. I mean, the idea that there's a duty to be traumatized when you're trying to draw attention and put a stop to other people being traumatized. It's a bit like saying that a surgeon who is trying to get a bullet out of somebody has a duty to go and get shot. It doesn't follow. So we're gonna just do some non-productive, just fucking dunking on chuds this time. And if you've got some, and you just to look at something else other than just the fucking horrors that we've been seeing. So if anyone has some suggestions for videos for us to look at, I've got a couple. If you sound like a bully, you lose the argument. That's what we're going to do. Just start out. And if you've got some suggestions for shit to just dunk on here, chud shit to dunk on, the Vosh and the Keppels, if they could both be just sort of imploded separately or jointly, I would be cool with that. What the hell is a Keffel, anyway? Okay, we're starting off well already. Somebody has paid a $2 super chat to be homophobic and transphobic. And, oh wow, we've got some decent video quality so we can actually look at this fucking bookshelf, which features prominently Caleb Maupin's We Are Shitty Builders. We've also got Plato, Ancient Greece's Original Fun Factory. What else? The Communist Party of China, a 3-volume history. Oh, yes, everybody's favorite.
Be forced to learn about LGBT issues. Well, Gabby, if you mean little kids, yeah. I do think that when someone's in high school, they should know what lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender is. They should just know the basic facts about those cases. I think in order to be an adult, you need to have an education about these things. You know, I will never forget.
So, wait a second. So the idea, you do realize, Caleb, that there are, like, LGBT people who exist before, where does he think LGBT people come from? Yeah, none of the, I have a feeling a lot of these books haven't been read. I mean, all he's ever done, it's really interesting to look at Caleb Maupin on Marx. I was at a loose end reading, and I was reading Marx on Hegel's philosophy of law, which I had never read before, and is really just beautifully written. But he's very specific with the Marx stuff that he will actually bring in there. Like, he never talks, you never really get a look in with Marx's critique of capitalism, not in any detail. You know, what he focuses on the easily least useful thing in Marx, which is him speaking from a mid to late 19th century perspective on what should immediately be done as revolutionary measures in the mid to late 19th century context. And that's it.
A conversation I had when I was in high school. I played the trombone in the marching band. And I played...
Yeah, I mean, he looks like a tromboner.
Played the trombone, and the only other two trombone players were two young women, both of whom I went very conservative small town. And both of the other two trombone players were very, very religious young women from my town. One day, one of these very...
Oh, God, this isn't gonna...
Very religious young women said to me, she said, "Caleb, I heard that you think that being gay is not a choice." And I said, "Well, I don't think it is a choice, right? I don't think gay people choose to be gay. I think they are." And she said, "Well, I don't understand how anybody could think of that."
Well, I mean, all you have to do is, the fact that you can tell that heterosexuality in particular is not a choice because there are straight women. I mean, look at what's on offer for straight women. Look at this guy. This guy is an example of what's on offer for straight women. Obviously, heterosexuality is not something that people would necessarily choose following... Yeah, I played the trombone in the context of discussing homosexual cases. Yeah, I mean, it is quite true that the motion of playing a trombone, I will admit, I cannot play a single instrument, but I've seen them played. The motion involved in playing a trombone is a little bit like doing a bobert.
And then I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, she put her arm around the girl next to her. She said, if I married her, that would be a choice, wouldn't it?
Oh. Okay.
And I said to her, "Do you want to marry her?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Well, then you're not gay."
Well, no. I mean, what? Okay, so he thinks being gay means that you want to marry literally every single person of the, appropriate gender. By the way, how's the audio? I was noticing when I put up the thing about genociding with Biden, the beginning of yesterday's stream, that the audio was really harsh. And so I want to make sure that it's not... why is he so obsessed with sexual... Because he doesn't want to be honest about his sexuality. Why is he turning homosexuality into an anecdote about his righteous attitudes in high school? Because he has to go back that far to find examples of himself having righteous attitudes. Caleb has kids?
And she's like, wait, are you telling me that gay people feel about other girls the way I feel about boys? And I said, yes. And
How the hell would he know?
It was like a big, oh, moment for her.
Yeah, we see, like, he manages to make this about how he was the fucking midwife of this girl's epiphany. Like, he's managed to make LGBT rights into a discussion of his time as a tromboner and the fact that he managed a really, actually not particularly good explanation of what being gay means. And somebody immediately just totally changed their mind about it. And it's like, wow. I mean, this is going to be like one of the great exploits of the great ideological leader, Caleb Maupin. Yeah, to tell what gay people feel.
Right? She had no idea. She believed that people were gay because they just wanted to rebel or they wanted to break the rules or something. She didn't realize that the basis of people being homosexual was
Homosexual?
that they had attraction to people of the same sex the way most people have attraction to people of the opposite sex. She didn't realize that.
Okay, so what's your fucking point? Caleb is an android. Use some reason Saudi Arabia bombed you.
Well, it's important for people to have this kind of education.
And what's your reasoning for why somebody under the age of 17 couldn't be aware that some people feel attraction to people of the same gender or different genders or all of them? What's the fucking problem there? You can give that explanation to a 5-year-old. They're totally cool with it.
And you can't get this kind of education from the media, right? The media.
Yeah, I mean, he is the Tim Wise of LGBT rights education right here. You can't get this kind of education from the media. The media doesn't talk about gay stuff like Caleb does.
This is crazy, right? So the basic facts for older kids, I'm not against. Right?
Yeah.
Just like you'd have to have education for kids to use condoms.
I mean, this sounds so much. We were looking at Cenk Uygur explaining about how he was totally on board with trans rights, but not this extreme shit, by which he meant trans people having the right to participate in sports. And this is just Caleb Muppet doing the exact same shit, except somehow managing to make it even more about himself. Well, I think what Caleb is saying with the lumberjack shirt is that he's not a lumberjack and he's okay.
Kids have to know.
That was quite a freeze frame.
If an adult is doing something that is sexually inappropriate, to know, they're being molested or whatnot. Oh,
yeah, what about if an ideological leader is doing something sexually inappropriate?
I mean, I'm not against learning about these issues. What I don't think is, first of all, in the younger grades, I think that's more of the parents' job in the younger grades.
Yeah, I mean, he's the Sir Mix-a-Lot of Nazbolism, because he will say something that almost sounds kind of decent, but he likes big butts, and he can lie. He's actually pretty good at it. But there's always going to be a big butt coming afterwards.
They get older. And there shouldn't be a political agenda in the education.
Good question. Good question. Why did we bring that up? Why did this notorious sex pest decide to bring that up?
Right? It shouldn't be that, oh, we're teaching you this because it's therefore your duty to go organize in the streets and fight for... No.
Yeah, why would we want kids to think about organizing for social change as a good thing that they should be involved in? Like, I mean, that's how you get communism. Like, I mean, that's just... he's no commie here, Caleb Maupin. He pretends to be, but he's not.
That shouldn't be it. There should be no agenda in the education.
What do you mean, no agenda? Like, I mean, literally, the agenda is LGBT people fucking exist and have every right to be treated decently and to live their fucking lives. What do you mean there should be no agenda? Oh, well, what he's saying is he doesn't think that should be in there. It should be more like sort of a spotter sheet. This is what a gay looks like. And
But people do need to know the basic facts of these things, right? They do. People
Christ balls, this prick has kids.
need to know these things, but I
knew about the wife because he lives off of her, but I did not know that there were kids in the mix. Jesus Christ.
But the other thing that I think is that, when I was in school...
I can answer that one. I got it. He's not a Marxist, but he plays one on YouTube. He has like, we watched, Weed Lord, Tim Pool's little offsider, who now has his own stream, except he doesn't seem to be doing much with it anymore. Learning about Karl Marx in real time, and he read more of, like, Marx in that fucking stream than Caleb Muppet has demonstrated having read in his entire fucking creepy-ass career.
There was a huge amount of accommodating religious people. For example, the evangelicals in my area, they did not believe in Halloween. They thought Halloween was a satanic holiday.
That's what makes it so good. That's why Halloween fucking rocks.
So my school actually changed the Halloween party to...
Oh, yeah, but I think what he meant by that, I saw that too. He said a compound in the woods. And I think what he was saying with the kids there was actually referring to the members of CPI Mark 1. That was how I read that. Because, they are overwhelmingly really young, politically naive people that he's brought in. I think Peter Coffin is probably one of the few over 30s.
The Autumn Festival, because they weren't, to accommodate the religious people that were against Halloween. And there was a huge effort to accommodate that. And even
the Autumn Festival. What kind of... That sounds like some shit that, like, Sylvanian families would celebrate.
And then there were 2 or 3 kids who their parents were so against Halloween, they had to leave school because they couldn't, even though it was the Autumn Festival, didn't matter, it was Halloween, and that violated their religious beliefs. I don't understand why, nowadays... Why don't we have the same accommodation?
What, the same accommodation in the sense that if religious bigots don't want their kids to know that LGBT people exist, then because they want to not have LGBT people exist, that there should be nothing challenging that? Like, Caleb, you like to pretend to be a communist. You think that those people also would feel the same way about having any kind of education on what communism is? Like, I mean, what the... This is... Yeah, this is just so this is so fucking mask off.
You know, if a kid is a Muslim and he can't go to the Christmas party because they don't believe in Christmas,
that's not the same thing as the kid not learning about there being gay people. And I would say, I should note, I mean, he's talking about these accommodations made for Christian fundamentalists. And I should say, as a Jewish kid growing up in U.S. schools, nobody was making any kind of fucking accommodations for us. But, I mean, he's a big anti-Semite. He probably doesn't give a shit about that.
Fine. Kids at Jehovah's
I had to listen to, like, my bus driver in high school talk on and on about how the Jews ruled the world and shit. Big fundamentalist Christian. And had, like, so much of a big fundamentalist Christian that he was convinced the rapture was coming in the year 2000, and so he sold all his shit. And then I remember I was out of the country for a while, and then I came back, and, you know, it was like 2001, and I got on just a regular metro bus, because it was just a metro bus that was a school service that our school bus in high school was. And it was him, and it's like... So how'd selling all your shit for the rapture work out? I didn't say that. But I thought it.
Goodness, right? Fine. And why is there now this feeling that no, if the kid's family says we don't believe in homosexuality, that kid is...
That's not the same fucking thing. Like, I think that, like, homosexuality and Christmas, not the same thing. Apart from everything else, last I checked, the last time anyone was actually, outside of, like, Palestine at the moment, the last time anyone experienced any serious repression for, like, being into Christmas, there were lions involved.
Required to sit there. Why? I'm actually working on a manuscript right now.
Oh, wow, he actually works on these things. I thought he just sort of, like, downloaded his Twitter data, had it randomized, and trusted his luck.
It's something I'm working on. It probably won't be published for a long time because I got so much going on, right? And by the time I finally finish this book, it'll be a long time. But I'm always writing. I love writing. And I'm constantly...
Yeah, which is funny because, I mean, you're not very good at it. You suck at the writing.
Constantly writing political stuff. One of the things I'm working on is about.
Well, I mean, I would have to say, like, being around other lesbians is like Christmas to me, as long as they're not TERFs. A manuscript. I mean, I like how he acts like this stuff is actually edited. This motherfucker. I mean, he in his second to last book, I haven't actually seen anything from his book where he wrote a letter to Bob Avakian, like from one cult leader to another. But the one before that, the bread tube serves imperialism and is a big Jewish CIA conspiracy, he thanks his proofreader in the acknowledgments. And in the blurb on the back, there's a big fucking typo. Yeah, you have his manuscript. He just puts this stuff into whatever, like, self-publishing platform and just hits submit.
How to argue against wokeism, kind of. It's like a book about...
Oh... The mask, I mean, the mask just keeps on slipping more and more.
Arguing with wokeism, what wokeism is, etc. And one thing that I keep coming back to is when it comes to the LGBT stuff.
The LGBT, you mean the existence of LGBT people?
Right? How do I put this?
Badly. You will put it badly. We all know that.
Bullying is wrong. Bullying and discrimination is wrong.
Like, so, for example, when you manage to get somebody fired for their job so that they have to, like, do sex work for you in order to cover the rent, that's wrong, is what you're saying.
It is wrong to bully a kid because of the color of his hair. It is wrong to bully a kid because of the shape of his nose. It's wrong to bully the kid because of the tennis shoes that he or she wears. So bullying someone on the basis of the fact that they identify as gay or they present
Identify as gay. Oh, well, he's obsessed with sexuality because he's a creep. Yes. Bullying Caleb Maupin is fun for the whole family. I'm doing it right now.
in a gender non-conforming manner is wrong. And what the woke people tried to do, and the basis of their deception,
There's
is
the big
they
but.
try to make everyone who disagrees with them into a bully.
Order.
So it is very, very, very important.
Wait,
that
okay,
when-
so bullying is wrong, but being against bullying is also wrong. This motherfucker is like the Tony Blinken of bullying right now. This is like yeah, well, you gotta have both sides. Hello, Mask. Yes. Yeah, I mean he's doing the both sides thing. He's like this is his Samantha Power moment here.
You are arguing with people around these issues. You do absolutely everything you can to
This motherfucker talking about bullying is rich when he fucking mocked Melinda Butterfield for saying that the existence of laws criminalizing in extremely vague terms any drag performance, which is just defined as somebody who is like dressing in public in a way inconsistent with their biological sex, meant she probably would not be safe doing a reading of her book in the state of Tennessee, and he thought that was fucking hilarious. This motherfucker is telling us about bullying right now.
not appear as a bully.
By the way, let me just say to everybody in chat who has not checked out Black Anarchic Reacts, check out Black Anarchic Reacts' channel. He gives good stream. Great stuff on Caleb, great stuff on all sorts of fucked up cult shit. Really worthwhile stream to watch. Check it out, give him a subscribe. That stream is rewarding, and it has a good starting soundtrack as well.
The issue is not your opinion about homosexuality. The issue is not your religion. The issue is, do you have just as much right with your family to practice your religion?
Like, seriously, fuck you. Like,
That maybe isn't okay with that kind of thing, or to
but you're saying that it goes beyond just practicing one's individual religion, because the thing is, what you're talking about here, Caleb, is people getting to act out their religiously motivated bigotry on other people. Like, if people want to just, like, think in homophobic, I mean, that sucks. I mean, that sucks for them. That sucks for everybody that their people do. But yeah, that's just thinking. Nobody's stopping that. But the minute they start to act on it, it ceases to be any kind of like first of all, this is just such Mozgov reactionary shit right now, that he's actually trying to suggest that as long as the bullying is motivated by your religion, that it's okay. Like this okay, let's follow that though, because this motherfucker claims to be a supporter of Palestinian rights. because it's better than just saying that he really doesn't give a shit about Palestinians, or he doesn't give a shit about anybody, but he doesn't like Jews. And he's decided to conflate the two. But there are people in the West Bank right now with state support who will give you a religious justification for why they have to destroy the olive harvest of the neighboring Palestinian villages and point guns at their kids and all sorts of other fucked up shit. So, by this reasoning, that's okay too, and it would be bullying to tell them to cut it out.
To practice your feminist beliefs that maybe are deep.
Oh, I could bully fascists. I could bully fascists all fucking day. Hello, Kid Astro. Khanet. Don't be that simplistic about bullying. There are pros and cons like everything else. It's a complex and nuanced matter. Let's find common ground, yes. Yeah, I mean, he's just Tony Blinkenizing it.
You have just as much rights as the LGBT people have. In America, we have the separation.
So you have the right, they have the right to exist, and you have the right to not let them? What philosophy of right is this? Like, what kind of bullshit is this? There's a bit of a contradiction in here.
Church and state. Right? That is just how it is.
Hello, Chaya
Batsi. State religion in America. 9 of the 13 colonies had a state religion. And that's why in the First Amendment...
Yeah, and fuck them.
...of the Constitution, the only way the American people would accept the U.S. Constitution was if it had a Bill of Rights, and the first...
The American people didn't get any kind of look in on the Constitution. I mean, if you read Akil Reed Omar's book on the actual writing of the Constitution, one of the things he points out is that the whole thing, the Constitutional Convention, happened in secret. Like, the majority of the population, like, even the majority of the settler population, not only did they not get a say in this shit, they didn't even get to know what was up for discussion. So, like, I mean, the majority of the American people at no point, by just basic, like, bourgeois liberal standards, legitimate definition, have never had a say in, like, what the Constitution of this country says. Like, no person alive has actually had any say in what the Constitution of this fucking country says. So just lose me with this bullshit.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights.
Well, because colonizers are always scared. Yeah, I mean, well, I didn't read Howard Zinn in high school. I read about Howard Zinn in high school, and I think one of my absolute favorite teachers in high school almost certainly owned that book, and probably had been, and I would guess probably had been reading Howard Zinn before that book even came out. Just judging from certain pedagogical choices he made, like he showed us Maitland, the whole fucking movie, which is one of my favorite movies to this day, and trolls the shit out of this motherfucker's bullshit idea of what class consciousness is in one of the very first scenes. The Flushing Remonstrance. I have not actually heard of the Flushing Remonstrance. It sounds like something you'd want a plumber for, though.
The very first line of it is, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or abridging free exercise thereof. That was the only way the American people would ever accept the Constitution, because
Again, what American people? Motherfucker, almost the only people who actually got any say in this were the people who wrote the thing and their fucking golf buddies. Or I don't know if they were playing golf. They probably were, but I mean, whatever the fuck rich white people on stolen land did back in 1789.
Maryland was Catholic. Massachusetts was Puritan. Pennsylvania was Quaker. And the only way they could get all these different states that had different religions...
I wonder, were there any other people in those areas at the time who might have had beliefs of their own?
To be in the same country was there had to be a guarantee that we were never going to pick a favorite. We were never going to say, this is the religion the government believes in, and this one the government doesn't. And so based on that, you know, our American schools can't be saying being gay is wrong because that's one person's religion when...
What? I mean, this is just Fox News bullshit at this point that he's doing here. This isn't... I mean, this is just recycled Fox News bullshit. The idea that, I mean, you can just sort of reduce all of this to religion. Like, whether I'm allowed to exist, or whether somebody is allowed to teach in school that I have a right to exist, is a matter of religious conflict. Well, see, I have a feeling, yeah, I mean, good point. I did not know the states by confessional breakdown. That I wasn't surprised to hear Maryland was Catholic, because Mary's right in the fucking name. But, I mean, I have absolutely... I have no belief that he is... I don't believe that he doesn't understand this. I don't believe that this motherfucker managed to spend all this time sort of soaking in just enough, like, left-sounding discourse to confuse fucking teenagers. And has not heard in great detail about how actually the people had absolutely no fucking say in anything about how this government was set up.
Somebody else's religion says, my interpretation of the Bible, whatever, says it's okay.
And meanwhile, there are literal people who just are LGBT. And maybe they have rights in this matter too that have nothing to do with some motherfucker's like religious bullshit.
However, and this is the other thing, you can't have...
Oh, okay, that's that's quite interesting, Adria. I don't feel like I had heard about that. But cool. Thank you for... See, this is one of the nice things. So I've managed to have a very informative chat.
American schools doing the
opposite. And I love that.
You can't have American schools saying that people whose religion says that it might...
Well, I mean, some people's fucking religion says that slavery's cool. Like, I mean, you have the Christian identity motherfuckers, whose religion specifically says that... that slavery ought to still exist, and that Jews are Satan. Does that mean, Caleb, that the schools should be neutral on whether slavery should exist and whether Jews are in fact Satan? What about the Nation of Islam, for example? Does this mean that the schools have to be neutral on the question of Yaqub? Like, are you going to take this the full direction that it goes? Are we going to say that the schools also need to be... I mean, if religious neutrality means being neutral on questions of fact and basic human rights, that anything that religions have a specific opinion on, then you couldn't have schools at all. You, like, literally could not have any kind of fucking schools.
Might be wrong, which most religions historically...
And this is the U.S. I wouldn't actually trust school cafeterias to have anything that really could legitimately be called bread. Yeah, exactly. Schools should be neutral about Hebrew Israelites teaching that white people will be enslaved by Yahweh after Armageddon. Exactly. Like, I mean... And what kind of education is exactly left if the schools are going to be neutral on every single matter some religion has an opinion on? Like, how is that supposed to work? You could just, I mean... Because, like, there are fucking fundamentalist Christians who are against set theory, as in the mathematical thing. They don't like it because they feel that set theory calls creationism into question. So maybe we also need to just, like, not have math, too? Yeah, I mean, most religions historically, like, Which ones? So far, he's only mentioned Christian sects. He's literally only mentioned Christian sects. He has not. He hasn't said a damn thing about Jews. And let's just thank fuck for a second. This motherfucker hasn't said a damn thing about Jews. Hasn't said a thing about Muslims. Hasn't said a thing about indigenous belief systems. Like, I know it is random as hell, but it is. There was a whole write-up about this. About Christianity's beef with set theory that I read like 6 or 7 years ago. I don't remember exactly where. It was during one of these Texas textbook shit fights that was going on, and somebody pointed this out and wrote up a whole thing, like quoting fundamentalist Christians talking about how much they hate set theory. Like,
And globally say you can't have the schools saying that those people are bad for their religious faith either. The government,
when schools are saying that LGBT people have a right to exist, they're not like making that as a religious argument, though. They're just saying LGBT people have a right to fucking exist. I have a religious objection to Nazbol sex pests having YouTube channels.
government institutions in America are supposed to be neutral on all religious matters.
And he literally is defining anything that any religion, well, Christianity, any form of any Christian sect anyway. He hasn't said shit about Islam. He hasn't said shit about anything else. Is a religious matter. Like, that means you can't teach heliocentrism.
They're not supposed to be supporting Christianity, Islam, atheism, Judaism, Hinduism, none of it. And so because of that, if you want to argue against the woke thing on LGBT rights, the only ground you have is to say, I have my right to my religious beliefs with my family and my kids to say this is wrong.
Yeah, no, you fucking don't. Fuck you. I mean, that's the full answer. This is the argument that he's teaching. This is the great fucking revolutionary teachings of the great leader Caleb Maupin right here. It's just, we got to agree to disagree. I have a right to my opinion. This is his fucking argument. Well, yeah, also, atheism isn't a religion. Good point, yes.
Just as much as the LGBT kids and the LGBT parents have the right to their beliefs.
Being LGBT is not a belief. It's just a thing you are.
That is the only basis on which you can argue with the LGBT thing.
Why would you want to, though, Caleb? That's the question. Why would you want to? See, I remember early on in his villain arc, when his thing was that he would show one picture of him with a horrible haircut at a WWP protest, talking about how he was like the fucking great leader of the trans rights struggle, and therefore nobody could tell him shit about LGBT rights. Now he's sitting here giving people explanations of how they can argue against LGBT rights.
If the conversation shifts...
This is so communist here. This is so fucking Marxist. This is so materialist. This is the great ideological leader of the Center for Political Immolation.
Away from there, it's a losing battle. You don't have any basis, right? The groomer thing, I mean, obviously pedophilia of any kind is not accepted.
Wait! That's your objection? You just like, the groomer thing. It's like they're literally painting targets. They're literally telling a lie about LGBT people that is designed to get them killed. And you're just, the groomer thing. It's like, fuck you, man. This... Hello, Reckless Future. Well, I mean, it's the U.S. Everybody's got fucking shitty public education except rich people.
Right? Whether it's straight or gay, no one can be molesting kids. They go to jail. Right?
That's all you have to say about that shit, motherfucker? Yeah, like, fucking hell.
You know, but, you know, at the end of the day, the basis on pushing back against the woke LGBT thing
is that you are an asshole and a piece of shit, and you can fuck off.
The basis of it has to just be, just like you have the right to be you, I have the right to be me. And that is something...
Yeah, except that, see, the minute you put it that way, it already doesn't work. Because the minute, a second ago, the way you were putting it, Caleb, you see, is you have the right to believe that you have the right to be, and I have the right to believe that you shouldn't be. And now you're saying you have the right to be you and I have the right to be me, but if being me means denying you the right to be you, then we have a problem, don't we, Caleb?
Something that, unfortunately, a lot of people just can't wrap their heads around.
Well, I mean, he gives his clever look there. He, like, sticks his fucking nose up to the microphone.
People that are in the majority and are surrounded by people who agree with them often just forget that other people have the right.
So he's saying that bigots are an oppressed minority. Like, this motherfucker wants, like, the fucking, the bigots' autonomous Soviet Socialist Republic.
To do and believe and practice and live according to their own conscience, even if it goes against the prevailing majority. Right? And I grew up in a little town that was run by evangelical Christians, and all the time...
Yeah, you just got done talking about how they were an oppressed minority, and now you're saying you were living in a town where they bent over backwards to accommodate fundamentalist Christians' religious bigotry. Like, I mean, make your fucking mind up. Make your fucking mind. Sorry. Just have to do some housekeeping here. That was some dickhead who decided to come in here and ask me if I'm single. Which is how all the best relationships start out, is you jump into somebody's chat and decide, when they're, like, talking about LGBT rights and debunking NASPOLs, to ask them if they're single.
They were forcing evangelical Christianity onto us, and they were violating the separation of church and state. They had ministers come into school, you know, teachers were given religious rants in class. You know, well, that was a violation of my rights. I didn't agree with it. My family was pretty liberal.
Oh, yeah. See, it sounded like you were kind of cool with it up until now.
And that was a violation of my rights because the school is supposed to be neutral on those kind of things. Well, I say the same for conservatives now.
So the school, but, okay, so now being conservative is a religion.
If you're a conservative and you go to New York City public schools, you have the right to not have pro-LGBT speeches shoved down your kid's throat. You have the right to say if they're doing an LGBT pride parade and all the kids have to participate, you have the right.
Well, where exactly has it happened that all the kids have to participate in an LGBT pride parade? I've literally never heard of that happening, and it wouldn't even fucking make sense, because the point of an LGBT pride parade is that it's LGBT people parading.
You have the right to say...
Oh, there are plenty of right-wing atheists. They're part of the reason that a lot of atheists, like the ones who don't suck, the ones like me, for example, who have really actually started feeling a bit uncomfortable to outright publicly identify as atheists because everyone would immediately look and think, fucking Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris and all the new atheist motherfuckers. Yeah, there are tons of reactionary atheists out there.
I'm taking my kid out of school, right? And that as long as we have the separation of church and state, you're on the list. As long as we have the separation of church and state in America.
Wait, what did
separation of church and state, taking my kid out of school. You have prayed, and all the kids.
He made that super chat disappear really quickly, and now I'm curious. It was something about William Jennings Bryan.
Have to participate. You have the right. You have the right to say, I'm taking my kid out of school, right? And that as long as we have the separation of church and state, you're
Hero Wacko views on him.
on the list. As long as we have the separation of church and state in America. That's just how it has to be. And that's the only grounds on which you can argue.
But the question is not how you can argue. The question is why you would fucking want to. Like, why, if you're not just a bigoted ghoul who wants to hurt marginalized people, you would want to be making this argument.
Right? You have to argue, and this, by the way, this is the way the LGBT rights.
Oh, he gets super chats from super twats. Yeah, he's just explaining your options. If you wanted to do propaganda against LGBT rights at the time of a major nation-state level onslaught in this country against trans people, well, this is how you'd want to do it.
Movement won. When they argued on these grounds, they won. People said, you know what? They said, you do your marriage your way, according to your conscience. We have the right to do our marriage our way, according to your conscience.
Wait, everybody, what?
And the Supreme Court looked at it and they said, you know what? You're right in America.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was no history of struggle there. I mean, this is so fucking, like, elementary school American history level bullshit. Oh, marginalized people said, actually things suck, and the Supreme Court said, you have a point. Things shouldn't suck in that way anymore. And then it was sorted. As we can tell from the fact that this motherfucker is sitting here giving people advice on how to argue in favor of things sucking.
America, we don't have a state religion. The basis of opposing you doing your marriage this way is religion, so you're right. Well, and they were right. I think they were right. We don't have a religious government in America, so we have absolutely...
And that was not actually the argument, and that was not actually the holding in that case. It wasn't about religion. It was about the fucking Equal Protection Clause.
No grounds on which...
Which is also in the Constitution, Caleb. Fucking, Constitution or First Amendment scholar here. Yeah, I mean, the U.S. state religion is imperialism. It's the worship of the capitalist class. It's the cult of personality built around motherfuckers like Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos and Elon. Fuck. That wasn't as great a pun on his name as I'm capable of, but I'll go with it right now because these are rough times.
To tell anybody you can't have gay marriage or, you can't have...
Wait, did she just say, like, what if we have public schools?
Absolutely no grounds on which to tell anybody you can't have gay marriage or...
Okay, somebody is sending him multiple super chats in order to get him on this reactionary bullshit. It's like if we have public schools allow Bibles. First of all, public schools allow Bibles. You're allowed to have a Bible for your own use in public schools. That has never been in question. That has always been permitted. And second of all, like, acknowledging that LGBT people exist and deserve to be treated with dignity and respect is not, like, allowing Bible in schools.
Yeah. You know,
Elon
have gay
Musk.
marriage. You can't have polyamory, or what do they call it? Polygamy, right? I mean, you know, they were right. And that's
Not the same thing, Caleb.
how the gay people won the argument. They didn't make it about our way is the good way, your way is the bad way.
But yes, they fucking did. They said our way, i.e. recognizing that we're human beings with rights who deserve to be treated decently by the state, is the right way. And your way, which is to say, no, you're fucking not. You will be abused by the state and society and you will like it, is the bad way. Like, I mean, this motherfucker is, I mean, this is just, he's like trying to do the thing that white liberals do with the civil rights movement to the fucking LGBT rights movement here, claiming that it was just all a matter of asking nicely.
No, they didn't.
Like, did this motherfucker, like, has he not heard of ACT UP? It's probably a problem with Restream. If there were a widget, if anyone knows, let me put it this way, if anyone knows of a widget you can use on OBS that would allow me to bring in my chats, my chat messages, both from Twitch and from YouTube, I would love to know about it, because this is a workaround I'm doing right now using my Restream chat window, and it's not particular, it's suboptimal, not least because it does mean that there's a long-ass buffer sometimes. So if somebody knows about that sort of widget, I would love to know about it, because this is a pain in the ass, frankly, to me as well.
We're trying to convince you to change your beliefs. They made it about...
But they did!
I got a right to be my way, and we don't have a state religion in America.
That was not the argument, though.
And that is how they won the argument. And now...
And, I mean, like, as if the fucking LGBT rights struggle was nothing but a fucking court case. This is such, like, basic-ass, shitty high school history class history right here. I mean...
that things have shifted. That's the only ground...
Well, so maybe what we need to do is say there's no state religion, and my religion says that communism is good. So therefore, we'd, Honorable Supreme Court, we would like to just have communism, because it's, because there's no state religion, and maybe that's what we do, and you just go to the Supreme Court and ask nicely, and we'll have communism. Like, I mean, since apparently there's no struggle involved in anything...
on which you have a way to argue against it. And you have to use that same argument that says, I have the right to be a Muslim, I have the right to be an Orthodox Jew, I have the right to be an evangelical, I have a right to be a Catholic, I have a right to be a Hindu, and not go along with this, just like you have and had the right to do what you did when it was in the minority position.
Yeah, like, I mean, the way he started out with this was specifically saying that being LGBT isn't some sort of lifestyle. It was him having this wonderful moment with his fellow tromboner where he explained that actually being LGBT is just a way some people are, and it isn't. And now he's saying that should get no more respect than the right of some people to not acknowledge that LGBT people are human beings. Like, I mean, if you missed the first part, that's what we came in on. Jesus.
Right? And that's the only basis on which you can argue. And everyone hates bullies. Everyone hates bullies. Let me repeat this. Everyone hates bullies. If you're a bully, you're an asshole. And I know...
during, when he was defending Gazi Kodzo, he made a point of arguing that being an asshole is not a crime. Oh, have a good night, Mask.
know there's probably people watching this right now that are bullies. If you were a bully,
yeah, I
you are
think
an
that's very likely, actually, that there are people watching Caleb Maupin right now who are bullies.
asshole, right? Everyone hates bullies, and it might make
That's why I'm giving free advice to bullies on how they can do it, how they can best argue in favor of bullying LGBT people.
it might make you feel good on the internet when you're surrounded by people who already kind of agree with you to like kind of repeat nasty things about people and insult people.
You mean like writing an entire book that falsely accuses a whole bunch of people with zero evidence of being CIA plants?
But that's not a winning argument, right? That might be fun for your little bubble on the internet to act like a bully.
He says to his little bubble on the internet, with whom he acts like a bully.
To use slurs, to insult people's appearances, to be nasty and hateful.
Wait, you just got done saying that people have a right to use slurs if it's their fucking religion. And that the state needs to be neutral on whether it's okay to, like, use slurs and harass people if people define it as a religious matter. Like, pick a fucking argument here.
That might get a lot of fun and attention and be entertaining to your little circle on the internet, but in real politics, it ain't an argument. It's not an argument.
Wait, okay. So in real politics, what matters is arguments. Like, what happened? This motherfucker used to pretend to be materialist.
In real politics, that is set up for failure. If you
Night.
look like a bully, you lose the argument.
Who gives a fuck about losing the argument, though? Like, the United States looks like a bully. The United States also wins the argument because most of the time, because the argument is which of us can kick the other one's ass into submission. Like, this is, I mean, what kind of West Wing bullshit is this? That it's all about who has the best argument.
And that is what the woke people want to do. They want to frame it as every person who does not agree with everything.
This is what fucking Junk Uyghur was saying yesterday.
Every aspect of this LGBT stuff, every single aspect of it is a bullying.
Well, because they are, though.
And that's how they win, because everyone hates bullies. Everyone who's ever been bullied or experienced bullying says that sucks.
Because it does. Because it does. And because the thing is, like, I mean, most people at this point, because LGBT people have been out for quite a long time, most people at least know a few. They know that, like, all the lies that have, like, been told about LGBT people are bullshit, except for, like, a few Nazis who probably also don't believe that shit, but are happy to repeat it, because it justifies what they want to do. Maybe that has something to do with it.
And so they frame the argument a certain way, where they present every person who disagrees.
This guy is George Lakoff for Nazis.
With what they say as being a bully. And that is how they win. Well, I'm sorry, but every female athlete who has a question about women's sports is not a bully.
Every female athlete who has a question about women's sports. Okay. If chess falls under women's sports, I guess I count as a female athlete. I have a question about women's sports. Like, my question is, what the fuck is wrong with you that you've decided to backslide on allowing trans women into women's sports when trans women have been allowed into women's sports for a very, very long time, and there's never been any evidence that they have any advantages at all? I have a question about women's sports.
Doesn't mean they're necessarily right. Don't know enough about the issue. But
that is his favorite. Don't know enough about the issue. This is what he did when Thought Slime called him out for having that turf Jyoti Brar on his fucking channel years ago. And he's like, oh, well, I just don't know enough about transgender ideology. Well, if you don't know about the fucking issue, maybe shut the fuck up. Like, I mean... 没有交叉，没有法院案，全 no investigation, no right to speak. So he's saying he doesn't know anything about it, then he needs to shut the fuck up.
I know a number of women who are feminists that have issues about women's rights that are not bullies.
Wow, congratulations.
Right?
I mean, what gets me is that there is a trans woman in his cult. And is listening to all this, and I just have to wonder, does she realize that when the leopard is talking about eating people's faces, that means her face? Like, or has she maybe already left? I don't, like, keep track on his fucking membership rolls. But...
They're not beating anybody up. They're not shaming people for who they are. They're just saying, based on my knowledge of human anatomy and athletics, I don't think this is right. And
yeah, they're just trying to deny people full participation in society based on who they are. I mean, all they're trying to do is, like, kick a marginalized group out of an aspect of social life. Like, they're not bullies. They're just hurting marginalized people. Like non-bullies do.
And they have the right to say it. And the same goes for, there are many people that say, based on their assessment of the medical stuff, that young children shouldn't be given puberty blockers.
Yeah, which is another way of saying that, first of all, their assessment of the medical stuff is cute. Because the thing is, there's 40 years of experience with giving trans kids puberty blockers. There's 40 years of experience. That's been going on since the 80s. The first kids to follow that protocol are older than Jesse fucking Single. But they act like it's experimental, and, just because there are all these studies, I mean, there are all these peer-reviewed studies that say it cuts down on suicidal ideation, it improves mental health outcomes, it improves, like, literally every single fucking outcome that is measurable. Just because of that doesn't mean, the honest ones amongst them, one of these ghouls actually said, in Missouri, I forget his name, but he said, well, maybe some kids are just born to suffer and die and should accept that. Which was a much more honest take on the issue than most of the people on his side of it, to at least acknowledge that what they're doing is fucking murder.
Are they bullies? Are they trying to make sure these kids get... No!
Yes, they are! Yes, they fucking are! That's exactly what they are. They're fucking trying to deny life-saving healthcare to marginalized children. They're fucking trying to get trans kids taken away from supportive families that love them and being thrown into, and at the best case scenario, thrown into care to be tortured by bigots. Like, yeah, that is about as bullying as you can get. That's people trying to torture little kids. Like, I would say that's kind of hardcore bullying, Caleb.
They're actually concerned about these kids. They're not bullying these kids. They're saying that these puberty blockers are...
They're not bullying these kids. They're just saying maybe torture some. Maybe torturing them is okay. Like, since when is just torturing little children bullying? Well, since when is using the entire apparatus of state violence to deny essential health care to little kids, since when is that bullying? Just because you want to hurt somebody who is defenseless, or who you think is defenseless. Because I think these pricks will find that trans people are way better defended than they thought, because they chose trans people as a soft target. And that's why they need to be very quickly disabused of that notion. They need to get a few bloody noses in one way or another to let them know that actually trans people are better defended than they think, so that they can move on to their next fucking abomination. But yeah, tell us again, Caleb, how just wanting to hurt little kids doesn't make you a bully.
They're bad for them in the long term. Well, They're not bullies. They might be wrong. I am not a medical expert.
They might be, like, maybe causing kids to have suicidal ideation who were actually quite well-adjusted and living their best lives up until now. They may be causing a massive internal refugee crisis of over 260,000 people, the last figures I saw, which is a couple of weeks ago. So it's probably closer to 300,000 now, fleeing for their fucking lives so that they and their kids can don't, like, lose access to their health care. Like, I mean, this motherfucker is here, like, talking about the fucking trans-genocide laws. And saying, oh, well, that's not bullying. I mean, just because you want to hurt some marginalized school children, that's not bullying. It's bad. Like, okay, in that case, just because I want to kick Caleb Maupin in the nuts, that doesn't make it bullying.
Expert, and I have no interest in debating this because I'm not a scientist.
Why the fuck are you just spent like 10 minutes talking about it? This is, like... You have no interest in debating it. Well, what the fuck have you been talking about for all this time if you don't know anything about it? You just got done saying, I mean, it sounds like you took a very clear position to me for somebody who claims he doesn't know anything about it and will therefore not express an opinion on it. Because when you say that doing things that are documented to harm small children isn't bullying, then you're actually having an opinion on it. And it looks like you're trying to debate it. Like, seriously, if you don't want to debate something, Caleb, nobody's asking you to. Like, I could live without having Caleb Maupin to kick around. I'm enjoying this on a certain level because he is just such a ridiculous human being. But I could cope. He does not, like, look, Caleb, do not feel forced to have shitty opinions just to supply grist for the dunking mills. Please do not feel forced to have shitty opinions on my account. I will cope if you just shut the fuck up about anything you don't know anything about. And since you don't seem to know anything about anything, yeah, you could just, like, shut the fuck up and delete your channel.
But they're not bullies. And the only grounds on which you can argue against the woke, LGBT agenda.
What the fuck was that?
Only way you can argue against that is by arguing, number one, on the basis that I have the right to be and have my conservative beliefs, number one.
Yeah, but the thing is that your right to have beliefs does not translate into your right to deny people access to healthcare they need. Like, I mean, this is such a low standard. This is such low quality reactionary garbage.
And
you couldn't even recycle this shit.
Making sure that you never sound or act like a bully.
Well, then okay, let me just give you a pro tip then. If you want to have anti-LGBT opinions and never sound like a bully, there is a fucking life hack for that, and that is that you shut the fuck up. You never say one word. You get into a small room and stay there, like a closet, for example. And just never tell anyone about your shitty opinions about LGBT people. Then you will never sound like a bully. That is the only way. Other than actually just changing your fucking views and joining the ranks of decent people.
Because you lose. You lose. The minute you sound like or act like a bully, you lose. Well, historically, this is true, right? Before gay marriage was legal, they used to say that Fred Phelps was the best friend the gay rights movement ever had. Did you know this? Because, Fred Phelps was this crazy pastor from Kansas who wore a cowboy hat and would picket the funerals of gay people, right?
Yeah, so he's saying the optics, his problem with Fred Phelps is the optics. This motherfucker's problem with Fred Phelps is the optics.
He would picket the funerals of gay people, and and he had signs that said "God hates fags," and he was the best fundraiser the gay rights movement ever had. He was so hateful and nasty and mean-spirited.
And you're sitting here, you've spent, like, this entire video, 17 minutes now, trying to explain how to argue in the spirit of Fred Phelps without making the mistakes of Fred Phelps in terms of optics. Wow.
People
wow.
would come to the
This
fundraiser,
motherfucker.
and he'd be outside with his cowboy hat on and his big signs. God hates you. You're going to hell. You ugly faggot. You're evil.
He's having too much fun with that. This motherfucker's having way too much fun saying that.
And he'd be out there on a...
Like, I mean, you don't get... wait, this motherfucker does not get to fucking reclaim the F slur.
bullhorn with his big sign. People would go into the gay rights fundraiser, they'd open up their checkbooks, and they would write checks like you wouldn't believe. He was the best friend the gay rights movement ever had. Because he looked like exactly every person who has any ounce of sympathy for the LGBT community would see that guy out there with his God hates fags and his cowboy hat and his on the bullhorn.
Yeah, say it again, motherfucker. Say it again.
You all are a bunch of disgusting animals. You're going to burn in hell. You know, they would see him, and people would just open their checkbooks, right? Because he sounded like a bully.
Well, and also because what he stood for sucks.
Sounded like a person who committed hate crimes. He picketed funerals.
So you're telling people how to be a person who commits hate crimes without sounding like a person who commits hate crimes. And this is a worthwhile thing to give people advice on. Why exactly, Caleb?
For goodness sakes, he picketed funerals.
He is way too fucking uncomfortable saying that shit.
Someone has just died. Their family is weeping, and instead of, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry your relative died,"
or instead of just not being there. Like, there was literally nobody asked Fred Phelps to go there in the first place. He could have fucked off.
He was out front with his bullhorn going. Right? Well, don't be that guy.
Yeah, well, be that guy, but know how to be that guy without looking like being that guy.
If you want to argue against something that is being promoted in the name of LGBT rights...
Well, that's a very cute way of you could have just... see, I'm an actual writer and an editor. I'm a professional editor. Don't know if anyone knew that. And let me just say, that's a very wordy way of saying if you're against LGBT rights. You could cut down your word count, you could make it more compact, make it more readable, just by saying if you're against LGBT rights. And then just sort of find a cricket bat and hit yourself over the head with it, please.
You don't want to be that guy. You don't. Right? You don't. And honestly, you don't really have much of an argument. Now, if you say you're against gay marriage, on what basis?
Oh, okay, so that whole thing, his consultation on how to make the case against LGBT's human rights and dignity, that was all just leading up to saying, you don't have much of an argument. Like, man, this guy is such a great ally. I mean, he's just such a fucking inspiration. He truly is a remarkable, great leader. Jeder hat einen Caleb Maupin gesagt. Yeah, it's fucking tromboner.
On what basis? On what basis are you against gay marriage?
Because you suck. Because they suck. They're like the people who are against...
Are you against gay marriage because it opposes your religious beliefs? Well, we don't have a state religion in America. So, you don't really have a basis, right?
Well, they have a basis. They're shitty people. That's the only basis they need. They suck. They are people who suck. And they express their religion of people who suck by having opinions that suck. And you're fucking Caleb. fucking giving them, like, advice on how to get their shitty opinions into the mainstream without sounding as shitty as their opinions actually are.
The only grounds on which you can object to anything LGBT is you just can argue that you have the right to be you and practice your beliefs with your family, with your kids, with your church, with your community.
Yeah, no, you don't. See, the minute you add it on your kids, you run into a problem. Because if your belief is that your kids who are LGBT should not be, should, like, have that beaten out of them, they actually do kind of have a right for that not to happen. They have a right not to be abused by you just because you've convinced yourself your religion allows you to. Like, seriously, wow, the shittiness of this.
Just as much as other people do. And that's the only thing you've got a basis for. Remember that. Right? And I am sorry if there are people watching this that disagree with me.
Oh, he's sorry. This may be the first, like, almost apology I've ever heard from him.
You know? And if you move to another country, it's not the same, right? You move to another country where they do have a state religion, there's an Islamic government or a Christian government or a Hindu government. You're in another country where they do have there is a legal basis for arguing.
Yeah, well, who gives a shit if there's a legal basis? There was a legal basis for arguing in favor of slavery in the United States. There kind of still is, because the 13th Amendment does not abolish all slavery. Like, that doesn't change the fact that it is an absolutely shitty thing to be arguing in favor of, and decent people should not be arguing in favor of it. So why the fuck are you giving people advice? Who gives a shit if there's a legal basis? Like, the ruling class makes these laws. Like, all having a legal basis means is that the ruling class decided that it sounded okay to them. Like, I thought that you were into class struggle, Caleb. Like, I mean, this is motherfucker. I joke that this prick has read 2 paragraphs of Marx in his life. But I think it's actually true. Like, what kind of materialist argument is this? And with that, it is time to wrap up. Thank you to everybody who joined. Thanks, Black Anarchic Reacts in chat. If you have not checked out Black Anarchic Reacts on YouTube, check it out. His stream is really good. I always learn something from it, and he's funny. Thank you to Reckless Future, all the new people who showed up. That was really, I mean, I love that when new people start showing up. I'm starting to have way more people in chat than I used to have. I mean, not a huge number, but it's like 10, which is, for me, that's a lot. And it's so lively, and I love that. And I will probably be clipping, if you missed any of this shit show, I will be clipping the highlights and probably putting them up on YouTube sometime in the next week or so. And other than that, let me just drop the Discord link, because I think some new people probably aren't on the Discord yet. Let me just drop the Discord link. Invite people. Right. Here, I'm dropping the link in chat. This is the Discord if you want to keep in touch in between streams. If you have videos you'd like me to roast, or just anything that you think might be of interest, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear your suggestions. I'd love to hear your links and stuff like that. And that's also where you'll find anything about, like, my latest videos, my latest video essays, my podcast that I'm working on, El Primer Borrador, which the first episode is up on Spotify, just because it's, like, the only podcasting platform I'm aware of. If anyone has any ideas about better Spanish language podcasting platforms that I might want to use, that's cool too. But in any case, thank you so much for everybody who has joined in, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. And may this fucking massacre in Gaza end and the Palestinian resistance and the decency of, like, all the fucking decent people of the world who are appalled at this prevail.